Hello, my name is Michael Pippis. I'm a high school teacher at Aviation High School in Long Island City, Queens. And I teach mostly global history, but I've taught American before. And I took this class in particular because it is something that I could use in the classroom. Talk about, the experience of immigration and immigrants and certain ethnic cultures, specifically the Puerto Ricans in New York City, which is another thing that was great about it. It was focused on the local area rather than a national kind of perspective. We went through a lot in this course: poetry, the arts, the political movements. And I think the thing that I'm going to get out of this most is probably how to incorporate this in the current curriculum. Use Puerto Rican studies in the context of global history, maybe even American history. I'm really glad I took this course. An 8th grade U.S. history class with a little modification, or most likely 11th grade U.S. history class. And it has to do with, it's basically a unit on migration using Puerto Ricans as the case study for New York. And it's primarily 20th century. Even though it kind of starts a little bit in the 1800s, I mean, I can help that. But and the way I set this up is the first aim, the first focus is to what extent did economics play a role in the first wave of migration to New York in the 20th century. And that's specific to the Puerto Ricans, because the way we started off is, the way I start off any unit is I give them an anticipatory guide, which basically it's like you find out how much they know just out of nowhere. Just give them a few statements, make them answer true or false, and then you can discuss that afterwards. But you just let them hold on to it. Like, for instance, I would say something like, I would write down, there were more than 100,000 Puerto Ricans living in New York before 1920. True or false? Why do you think that? You know nothing, so you just whatever they write, you write. And then for other ones could be like, nearly all Puerto Rican migration occurred in New York City. True or false? Since a great many Puerto Ricans are mixed Spanish and African descent, they had to endure the same sort of racial discrimination often experienced by African Americans. And you see what they have to say about that. And then you go into, and I'm using actually a very specific format. It's I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but the QTEL format. It was really developed for ELL students, but I like it for all grades, even ELL or just any kids. It's a lot to do with cooperative learning and little writing activities, little share outs, that kind of stuff. So, okay. The second task would be a quick write, one paragraph, a few sentences, and this was inspired by something we did in class. In your own words, describe the typical immigrant experience in the United States, and then have them write that. Then you could discuss, why do most people come here, how might they be treated, and then you could discuss push-pull factors as they're doing that, explain what that is, give a couple of examples. Then I have a short reading of the first Puerto Ricans that came here, the earliest ones. Goes up to like, 1917 or so. I'm not gonna read anything. It will be like a normal, high school level reading. And it's a focused reading, and as they're doing it, they get to underline and write down the reasons they came, and then the push or pull factor, that kind of thing. And then the activity is what I call collaborative poster, where in their group they can create a poster depicting one reason they came here, and it has to include 2 images, 1 symbol, 1 sentence from the reading, and 1 original phrase. So that the original phrase they can make up on their own. So it could be something like that style of paper where they make their posters, and then you finish that off with presenting it. And they can discuss, why they came up with that 1 sentence and that 1 reason, what that means to them, that kind of thing. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson has to do with basically how did the experience of Puerto Ricans change after the Jones-Champfort Act, when they became legal citizens. Is that what that is?
The Jones Act?
Yeah, the Jones Act. Yeah. And just like Jessica, I used the same San Juan news story
Oh, that's funny.
That's kind of like my, beginning exercise. I just do now, whatever. And I just show it to them without explaining what it is. And I say, describe this document, why you think it's important, what you think it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I give them a short focused reading on the case itself, just kind of like what Jessica did, but it's not like in legal terms at all. It's just the reading. And oh, sorry. And then the mini lesson aspect of it is discussing how did immigration policy change during this time period, why you think the Supreme Court ruled the way it did, and how might this impact the migration of Puerto Ricans to America. And then with the activity, it's another reading. Or you can do a video if you had one, that's the thing. You can do a reading video. I'm using a reading for the situation. And in that, it would do like a problem solution chart. This one would focus on immigration basically up to 1950. And all the different people, like Oscar Garcia Rivera, and they have to first identify all the problems they faced, and then the solutions that they came up with themselves. Not themselves, but the people, the first, Puerto Ricans that really got involved in politics, what they did to kind of, help them out. So they would do that in a chart. And then finally they would share that out, and you can even do a comparison to modern problems today if you had time.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally the last lesson would be, here's just pictures. I would show them, because having to do basically with the Great Migration, that's from 1950 on,
Mm-hmm.
they would, I show them two pictures as to start them off with kind of motivation. The one where they're coming off the boat and the way they look, and then one where they're coming off the plane, and then just, what do you see in document A, what do you see in document B, how are they similar, how are they different, and how do you think the immigrants' experience differed in both pictures. And then hopefully they get they see a difference there. And then their quick write, or I guess that would be the motivation, I would give them a phrase, no dogs or Puerto Ricans allowed. And you tell them, based on this statement, write a paragraph describing your thoughts on the statement. So, and then they can discuss that, where might one have encountered such a statement, how might one feel when seeing such a thing, who would put the sign up, for what reason. So that you get through that, and then there would be another reading that actually describes, and this is more technical, why the last wave of Puerto Ricans came, what they encountered, especially with the discrimination aspect of it. And then it would take, the actual activity this time around would be to do an illustrated timeline, where it's similar to the first activity. They choose, like, they say the 5 most important events. You have to, do kind of like a normal timeline, but you need at least 3 images corresponding to that date, 1 defining sentence, and an original slogan to sum up the experience of Puerto Ricans of one particular time period. And then you have each group present their timelines, and it's kind of a convenient way for them to kind of put their ideas together.